Words by Gary Sigler. Ascending in consciousness. Coming from the realms of glory to this physical dimension, we begin to live by the knowledge of good and evil, and that is what brought in the carnal consciousness. That is what religion calls a fall. Adam fell from a Christ consciousness to a carnal consciousness, and from then on reproduced children after his image and his likeness. Gen 5:3. The moment that we can have just a little bit of light penetrate into our darkened consciousness, we will begin to realize that we are not sinners, and we begin to ascend out of the miry clay of this dense physical consciousness. We begin to live then as spiritual people on this earth. We are being transformed day by our consciousness being raised and awakened to the truth. The person who is living out of their human consciousness is living by the knowledge of good and evil, living in the flesh of the carnal mind. And the carnal mind is so subtle. I am reminded of what Scripture said back in the very beginning, that the serpent was subtler than anything on the earth. The subtlest thing that you will ever come up against is your carnal mind. Most Christians are still taught that they are sinners and alienated from God. And if they don't change their ways, they will go to a place of eternal torture. People have asked me, do you think everybody has been written in the book of life? Well, what about Revelation that says, those whose names were not found written in the book of life were cast into the lake of fire? Those are those people who still think they are humans. Those names have never been written. Your human nature, your human identity has never been written in the book of life. The only thing that happens to the wicked, and when I say, the wicked, they are those who are still living out of their carnality and are being purified by the fire, not someday but now, not destroyed, not tormented and not tortured, but purified. So those who realize that they are spiritual beings begin to have a spiritual consciousness rather than a human consciousness. No longer do we live by the knowledge of good and evil. We simply live out of a life that flows from the innermost recesses of our being. We begin then to experience what Jesus taught, not just know what he taught. How many people today know the Sermon on the Mount and can maybe quote passages from the Sermon on the Mount? Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. We can know these things, but when that life in you begins to awaken, you become the Sermon on the Mount. Gary Sigler, website http://sigler.org